David Ornstein. David, we reported the news at the top of the show. Tottenham's match Sunday at Brighton has been canceled due to a COVID outbreak with the Spurs. What more can you add to this situation?
Well, their Europa Conference League match last night against Rennes was cancelled for the same reason, because this COVID outbreak, which has spread through the camp. The latest I hear from sources I speak to is that there are 17 positive cases at Tottenham among senior players, junior players and staff members. So it's a very disturbing situation. As you say, Paul, Brighton has gone on Sunday. There's even a feeling around the club tonight that Leicester may go on Thursday too, and that would put Tottenham 3 Premier League games behind and 1 European game as well that would need to be made up as soon as possible. Now, with midweek and weekend matches back-to-back right through to the turn of the year, it's not clear where the European game in particular will be able to be shoved in. I think UEFA may be lenient and say it could go into January, because the next match, if Tottenham are to qualify from that group, wouldn't be until February. But the Premier League games would be a real headache for Tottenham. The Premier League tonight are looking into how this is spreading so quickly. What is the situation elsewhere with positive cases also at Norwich City and Brentford? We don't know if it's just a coincidence, but they were the last 2 teams that Tottenham played as well. If there's any evidence found of transmission between the 2 clubs, that will be a source for serious concern. And the Premier League have today implemented emergency measures. They have recommended that clubs return to the strictest of protocols, and that means social distancing between players, treatments limited to around 15 minutes, masks being worn at all time. And I think the Premier League are going to hold a shareholders meeting, a meeting of all 20 clubs at some point next week to formalise that rule so that everybody has to adhere to them. And if they don't, then they could be punished with fines, because this is a threat to Premier League football. We've seen what happened in the past. We don't want it to be repeated. We don't want crowd sizes to be limited. But the British government has moved to what it calls a Plan B, and that means Premier League games are going to have to be subject to vaccination passports, by the sounds of it, or a negative COVID test. So this is something we did not want to be talking about, but it's very real for Tottenham in particular, and it gives them a fixture pile-up, because, as we explained there, there's a real issue of when these games are going to be played, and that's going to be a real headache for Antonio Conte, their manager. When he spoke about it, he was highly emotional, and it's a concerning picture that Tottenham are having to deal with at the moment, and other Premier League clubs won't want the same thing. Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, spoke today and said, when we had a COVID problem before the Brentford game, first game of the season, we were live there for NBC. We had to play. They didn't call it off. These are now being called off. Should there be a limit? Well, the Premier League are saying no. They'll judge it on a case-by-case basis. And Tottenham are the ones who have a reprieve for now, but they may not be playing until they face Liverpool on the 17th of December. So big problems at Tottenham as we speak. A
concerning story, one I know you'll keep an eye on, a close eye on throughout the weekend. Let's transition now to Leeds and the ownership situation there. I know you spent a lot of time writing about this in your feature article on Monday. Possible connection there with the ownership to the San Francisco 49ers of the NFL. What's the latest here?
Yeah, we could be seeing more Premier League clubs going in the way of US ownership. We know 49ers Enterprises, who are the investment arm of the San Francisco 49ers, have been growing a stake in Leeds United since their first investment in 2018. Now, it's leaped up to 44% just a few weeks ago. The crucial investment was a jump in January to around 37%. And at that point, my understanding, which we revealed in my Monday column, if people want to go and check it out and read the full details, was that they inserted an option, the 49ers Enterprises, that they could complete a full takeover of Leeds United by January 2024, valuing the club in total at in excess of 400 million British pounds. Now, that is a substantial figure. Of course, they're already 44% of the way there, so it would leave somewhere in the region of 250 million pounds if they want to take 100%. It would include the Elland Road Stadium, crucially. And when you get to 44%, Paul, you're not hanging around. You're probably going to do it sooner rather than later. It's not a small stake anymore, but you still can't control the club, so it's time to get a move on. So sources indicate to us that it could happen before January 2024, but it's not quite imminent. Andrea Radrizzani, the Leeds owner at the moment, who's been in control since 2017, he does have the possibility of voiding this deal if he was to buy another club elsewhere in the meantime. So it's not a fait accompli, but we understand that it's likely to happen. Now, 49ers Enterprises aren't just a small number of investors. They're not the 49ers NFL ownership alone. There are much more investors involved in this, many people, like a syndicate, really. And that suggests that that's the way these clubs are going. We've seen that at Newcastle United. West Ham have had Czech investment just recently. A number of US investors in Wolverhampton Wanderers just recently gone in alongside the Chinese ownership there. We've seen at Liverpool bringing in LeBron James, Manchester United, of course, at the Glazer family selling off bits and bobs. It suggests that the era of the single owner is coming towards an end, and that's fascinating for Leeds United. So let's see what happens there. But they've got issues on the pitch that they need to sort out for the time being. They've got a crucial game at Chelsea tomorrow. They're just 6 points above the relegation zone, 3 places Leeds in their second season back in the Premier League. They've got injuries to key men, Calvin Phillips, Patrick Bamford and Liam Cooper, their captain. They might have seen Chelsea as a bit of an opportunity because they've got a injury record themselves of the likes of N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic are out. They've not been playing so well recently. Their form has hit the skids a little bit, but Leeds will go there with a knowledge that they need to take some points, because around the horizon is Manchester City, is Arsenal, is Liverpool, is Aston Villa, all before the turn of the year. And Leeds will want to stay in the Premier League. The 49ers Enterprises will want Leeds to stay in the Premier League if indeed they're going to look to complete this full takeover of the club. We saw the stress that's being placed upon the club in their last match when they drew with Brentford, and the director of football, Victor Orta, was seen arguing with supporters in the stands. This is a big club of English football, of course, a lot of attention all over the world, and that's reflected in that price I mentioned there. Their commercial interest was huge even when they were in the Championship, bigger than many Premier League clubs, and of course Marcelo Bielsa, the renowned Marcelo Bielsa, as their coach. But it's not all going to plan on the pitch, and they want to sort that out as soon as possible. Interesting with Phillips injured, when he's been injured since they got promoted in the Premier League to the Premier League in 2020. They've lost, I think it's 9 of the 11 matches that he's missed. So it's a real cause for concern, and they're going to have to sort this out. But yeah, there's a bigger picture brewing in the background as well in terms of the ownership. So fascinating times at Leeds United.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches and much more.